At 7:40 that morning, before anyone else had a coat off, Mia Torres was already on the phone in the sales office with the door half closed.
I hear you, Dale, I do.
She had a pen in her hand and wasn't writing anything with it.
You've been with us 11 years. I'm not asking you to sit on this forever. I'm asking for 3 weeks.
On the other end, Dale Whitfield, the plant manager over at Summit Valve and Fitting, wasn't unkind about it. He just wasn't backing down either.
Mia, I like your parts, I like your people. I've told my boss that twice this month, but I can't tell him they like us when the shipment's 11 days late for the third time since January. Savage Industrial quoted us Tuesday delivery, every time, no exceptions. I've got a production schedule of my own to answer for.
3 weeks. Give me 3 weeks before you sign anything with Savage. I promise you, something's changing on our end.
She hung up, sat with her hand flat on the desk for a second, and then walked straight down the hall to Renee's office. It was 7:52 in the morning, and the all-hands meeting wasn't until 9. But Renee already knew, the moment she saw Mia's face in the doorway, that today was the day she'd stop hoping this would fix itself. Chapter 1, The Numbers Don't Lie. The overhead lights in the break room at Akron Machine Works buzzed the same way they'd buzzed for 30 years. 30 people worked here, machinists, a couple of engineers, a small sales team, and the family that had run the place since 1978. On a Tuesday morning in March, all 30 of them were crowded in around the folding tables, coffee going cold, because Renee Castellano had called an all-hands meeting, and Renee Castellano did not call all-hands meetings. Renee was the third generation to run the shop. Her grandfather Sal had started it in a 2-bay garage, making replacement shafts for local pump repair outfits. Her father had grown it into a real machine shop, precision-machined housings, shafts, and valve bodies for industrial pump and valve manufacturers across the Midwest. Renee had spent 11 years on the shop floor before she ever sat in the office chair, and everybody in the room knew it. That was part of why the room went quiet the second she cleared her throat. I'm not going to dress this up. 3 years ago, we did 11.6 in sales. Last year, we did 10.2. If nothing changes, this year we're looking at 9.3. And next year, 8.4. I don't need to draw you a picture of where that line goes. Nobody said anything. Walt Higgins, the CFO, sat off to one side with a legal pad, the way he always did, but even he wasn't writing. Here's the part that keeps me up at night. We are not losing business because people don't want what we make. Summit Valve called Mia 3 weeks ago and said flat out, they love the part, they love the price, and they are one late shipment away from moving 40% of their business to a shop in Savage Industrial. We're turning away work, real orders, real customers, and we can't get it out the door fast enough to keep them. The market's growing. Our share of it isn't. That's not a sales problem. I've watched sales work their tails off, so before we talk about anything else, I want the floor to hear it from me straight. If we can't fix this, in 3-4 years, there may not be a Akron Machine Works for any of us to work at. I don't say that to scare anybody. I say it because every one of you has earned the truth. She let that sit for a second. From the back, near the vending machine, a second-shift lathe operator named Denny Ockhafer raised his hand halfway, like he wasn't sure he was allowed to.
Renee, I got a question, and I don't mean it ugly. Is this a layoffs conversation? My wife's going to ask me the second I walk in the door tonight, and I'd rather have a real answer than a guess.
The room got very still. Renee didn't flinch from it. Fair question, and you deserve a straight answer. What I asked Priya's team to bring back is a way to grow into the work we're losing, not shrink around it. Nobody in this room is getting a pink slip because of a decision made in that conference room this week. I can't promise you the shop looks exactly the same a year from now. Some of you might end up running different equipment than you run today, and I'll be straight with you about that as it happens. But this is a save the company conversation, not a cut the company conversation. Those are different problems, and I'm only interested in solving the first one. Denny nodded slowly and didn't push further. Renee nodded back toward the front. Priya's team has been looking at this for 6 weeks. I asked them to come back with real options, not wishes. Priya, the floor's yours. Well, The conference room's yours this afternoon. Everybody else back to work. And thank you for your patience while we figure this out together." At 1:30, the conference room held 5 people. Renee, Walt Higgins with his legal pad, Priya Nair, the engineering director, Jordan Blake, the process engineer who'd built the numbers, and Mia Torres from sales, there to answer for the customer side. Priya didn't waste time on a slide with a company logo and a mission statement. She put up a single chart, a line falling gently, then a second line, orders they'd had to decline, climbing.
Here's the shape of the problem. We turned away about $2.1 million of orders last year. Real orders, real customers, quoted and ready to buy. We said no, because we couldn't promise a date we'd hit. Our on-time delivery was 96% 5 years ago. Last year it was 81. Our backlog used to run about 3 weeks. Right now it's 7.
So we're too popular. That's usually a good problem.
Jordan was younger than everyone else at the table and talked with his hands.
It would be, except for why it's happening. It's not that we're out of orders to fill the machines. It's that the machines can't keep up. We're running 2 shifts on a mixed fleet, 2 CNC lathes from '99, a machining center from 2005. 5 years ago, those machines gave us about 300 hours, a year of unplanned downtime combined. Last year, it was closer to 900. Call it 3 shifts worth of lost production, sitting on the floor waiting on a part or a tech.
Marcus Ruiz had been asked to sit in from the maintenance side, standing near the door with his arms crossed.
And the maintenance bill's gone with it. We used to spend about $150 a year keeping those machines running. Last year it was $260. This year I told Priya, don't hold me to under 300.
Renee looked at the chart a long moment. So we have more demand than we can fill. And the equipment we'd fill it with is the thing breaking down.
That's the whole problem in one sentence. We brought you 3 ways out of it. I want to walk through how we're even allowed to compare them, because that part matters as much as the numbers do.
She clicked to the next chart, just 3 words, straight off the textbook page.
Sunk opportunity, incremental. When you compare options like this, incremental analysis says you only look at what's different between them going forward. The incremental costs and incremental revenues. Costs that don't change, no matter what we choose, don't belong in the comparison. Take the 2 old lathes. Combined, they're carried on the books for about $18,000 of remaining value. That money's gone. We spent it years ago. Whether we keep those machines, retire them, or set them on fire in the parking lot, that $18,000 doesn't come back and it doesn't change. That's a sunk cost, and it should not move our decision 1 inch, even though it feels wrong to walk away from something we paid for. And on the other side of the ledger, don't forget opportunity cost. The $2.1 million we're already turning away isn't sitting quietly on a shelf somewhere. It's a cost of standing still, same as if we wrote a check for it.
Walt shifted in his chair. Sunk cost was the one thing he and Priya had never disagreed on, and they both knew it.
What is relevant is what changes depending on what we pick. 3 doors. Door 1, do nothing, keep running like we're running. Door 2, add a 3rd shift. Door 3, invest in an automated machining cell, new equipment that replaces our oldest lathe and runs faster, with a robot loading and unloading parts.
Walk us through what changes under each one, not the mission statement version, the real one.
Door 1 costs us the least cash today and the most everything else. If we do nothing, the downtime trend doesn't reverse itself. Marcus's maintenance number keeps climbing. Summit Valve, and probably 1 or 2 others behind them, walk. We're not choosing safety by standing still. We're choosing the 84 number on Renee's slide.
Door 2 gets us more hands. We'd need about 8 more people, 7 operators and a supervisor, to run a 3rd shift. Problem is, in this labor market, finding 7 qualified machine operators inside of 6 months is a real question mark, not a given. 3rd shift pay carries about a 15% premium. All in, wages and overhead, that's pushing $800,000 a year in new cost. And here's the part I want to say plainly. A 3rd shift buys us more hours on the same tired iron. It does not fix why the iron keeps breaking. We'd still be losing to unplanned downtime. We'd just be losing it around the clock instead of 2/3 of the day.
And door 3 is the one we think actually solves the problem instead of working around it. 1 automated cell, 5-axis machining center, robotic load and unload, replacing our oldest lathe. It cuts changeover time from about 40 minutes to about 10. Downtime on that equipment, once it's running, drops toward 2% instead of climbing toward 11. And because the robot handles most of the loading, it adds capacity without needing a full crew standing at it around the clock. It gets us the output of a third shift without hiring one.
Walt finally put his pen down.
And what does door 3 cost us?
$1.3 million, financed over 7 years through the bank we already use.
The number sat in the room for a second, like a held breath.
That is where I need more than a chart with 3 doors on it.
That's exactly where we're going next. This afternoon, we showed you why the choice has to be made on what changes, not on what we've already spent, and not on fear of a big number by itself. Tomorrow, we bring the real cost structure. What's fixed? What's variable? What a third shift actually does to our books versus what the cell does to our books. Then we'll show you the volume it would take to make either one pay for itself. That's the number that decides this, not the sticker price.
Renee looked around the table, at Walt's legal pad, at Marcus's crossed arms, at Mia, who hadn't said a word in 10 minutes but looked like she wanted to. Tomorrow then, 2 o'clock. Everybody eat lunch first. I have a feeling we're going to need it. Chapter 2, Fixed, Variable, and Everything in Between. Jordan Blake had not slept much. He'd spent the better part of the night before at his kitchen table with a spreadsheet, and he brought that spreadsheet into the 2 o'clock meeting the way a man brings evidence into a courtroom.
Yesterday we told you what each option costs roughly. Today I want to show you why those costs behave differently, because that's what actually separates door 2 from door 3, not just the total, but the shape of the cost.
He put a simple table on the screen.
Every cost in this building falls into one of 2 buckets, more or less. Fixed costs don't move with how many parts we make this month: rent, Marcus's salary, the loan payment on this new cell if we buy it. Variable costs move with volume, raw material, the per part labor and power that go into cutting a part. Some costs are a little of both. The textbook calls those mixed costs. Maintenance is the classic example. Some of it's fixed, the preventive stuff we do on a schedule no matter what. Some of it's variable, the more hours those old machines run, the more it breaks.
That's not news. I've read a balance sheet before, Jordan.
I know you have. Here's why it matters for this decision specifically. Door 2, the third shift, is almost entirely variable in the wrong direction. Every one of those 8 new people is a cost that scales with hours worked, and it does nothing to change our fixed cost structure. We're not buying anything permanent. We're renting more hours on the same worn-out equipment at a 15% premium, hour by hour forever, for as long as we keep that shift running.
And door 3.
Door 3 flips it. The $2,200 a month or so in loan payments, plus depreciation, plus insurance on the new equipment, call it $300,000 a year, that's fixed. It doesn't change whether we make 1 part or 10,000. But once it's in place, the variable cost of making each additional part goes down, because the cell runs faster, breaks less, and needs less direct labor per part. We're trading a cost that scales badly, third shift wages, for a cost that's fixed, plus a lower cost per unit after that.
Marcus spoke up from his spot by the door.
I'll put my thumb on the scale here since you're all looking at spreadsheets and I'm the one who gets the phone call at 2 in the morning. Door 2 doesn't touch my problem. I'd still be pulling a part off that old lathe every other week. Door 3, I lose the machine that calls me the most.
There's a labor piece too, and I want to be honest about it instead of glossing over it. I called 4 staffing agencies before this meeting. Right now, in this market, qualified CNC operators willing to work third shift are close to the hardest hire in manufacturing. One agency told me flat out they had 2 candidates in their whole database for us. We might get to 8 new hires. We might get to 5, and run short-handed on the shift for a year while we train green operators on machines that already break down on people who know them. That's not a number Jordan can put confidence intervals around. That's just the market being what it is.
Let me put the option nobody said out loud on the table because somebody has to. There's a door 4. We don't spend anything. We accept a smaller company. We right-size to the revenue we can actually hold onto with the equipment we've got. And we stop trying to be a company that does $11 million.
The room went quiet in a different way this time.
I've run that math too, Walt, because I knew you would ask, and I didn't want to be the one caught without an answer. Right-sizing to what our current equipment can reliably deliver means this company at more like 6 to 7 million a year, not 9. That's not a plateau. Reliability doesn't hold still. It was 96% 5 years ago, and it's 81 now, on the same machines, getting older. Door 4 isn't standing still. It's a slower version of Door 1, and it ends the same place, just with a few more years to get there and a few more good people gone before it does. I'm not putting it in front of you because I think it's a real option. I'm putting it in front of you because you deserve to see that we looked at it and ruled it out for a reason, not because we didn't want to say the word smaller out loud.
I don't doubt any of that. What I doubt is whether we can carry another 1.3 million in debt. We are not a company with room to be wrong. Our equity position is solid, but it's not bottomless. Right now our debt is about a third of our equity. Banks like to see that number, and ours likes it too. That loan pushes us up near 2/3. Our covenant with the bank caps us at 3/4. That is not a lot of daylight, Renee. If this doesn't work the way Jordan's spreadsheet says it will, we don't get a second try. We're not talking about a bad quarter. We're talking about whether this company and everybody's job in it survives the decade.
The room went quiet. This was the part Priya had been waiting for and dreading.
Walt's not wrong to be scared of that number. I'd be worried about you if you weren't. But I want to put something next to it. We are already losing 2.1 million a year in orders we can't fill. That's not a risk we're choosing to take on. That's a bill we're already paying, quietly, every single week, whether we buy anything or not. Standing still isn't the safe option here. It's just the option where the bill doesn't have our signature on it.
That's a good line, but a line isn't a balance sheet.
No, it isn't. So let's give you the balance sheet. Tomorrow, we're not going to talk you into anything. We're going to show you the exact volume of parts this cell needs to produce every year just to pay for itself. No profit, no upside, just break even. Then we're going to show you the volume we actually believe we'll get, based on the orders we're already turning away today. You compare those two numbers. If the volume we need is bigger than the volume that's realistically out there, you should vote no, and I'll help you build the case for Door 2 instead. But I don't think that's the number you're going to see.
Renee looked at Walt. Walt looked at his legal pad, where, for the first time all meeting, he'd actually written something down. 2 o'clock tomorrow. Bring the real number, all of it. If we're betting the company, I want to see exactly what we're betting on. Chapter 3, The Break-Even Line. Nobody sat down right away when they filed into the conference room the next afternoon. Renee stood by the window with her coffee. Walt had 2 legal pads this time. Mia Torres sat closest to the screen, like she wanted first look at whatever was coming. Priya didn't open with charts. She opened with a question.
How many parts does the cell have to make, every year, just to break even on its own cost? That's the whole question today. Everything else is noise, until you know that number.
She put the math on the screen, simple, and rounded, the way numbers should be when a decision this size rides on them.
Average part sells for about $95. Costs us about $64 in material, labor, and power to make it. That's the variable cost we talked about yesterday. So every part we sell contributes about $31 toward covering our fixed costs, and after that, toward profit. The textbook calls that the contribution margin, or the marginal contribution. Same idea, 2 names.
$31 a part.
Call it 30. Round numbers, so nobody in this room does math in their head and gets it wrong under pressure. Now the fixed cost the cell adds. Loan payment, insurance, incremental depreciation. About $300,000 a year.
She let Jordan take it from there.
$300,000 divided by $30 a part comes out to an even 10,000 parts. That's the break-even line. Below 10,000 extra parts a year, this machine costs us money. Above 10,000, every part past that line is close to pure margin because the fixed cost is already covered.
And what do we actually expect to sell?
It wasn't really a question, it was a dare. Mia stood up for the first time.
I've got that. Summit Valve alone would put back roughly 4,000 parts a year the moment we can promise a date and hit it. That's the business they've told us, in writing. They'd rather keep with us than move. Add in the orders we turned away last year across our other 4 biggest accounts, plus what we're already missing in bids because our lead time scares people off before they even ask for a quote. Conservatively, we're looking at 13,000 parts a year in demand that already exists. Today, not a forecast, orders we know about.
10,000 to break even. 13,000 we believe is real, and that's the conservative case. That's a margin of safety of about 3,000 parts, or roughly a quarter. You'd have to be off by more than a quarter on demand we can already see with our own eyes before this machine failed to pay for itself.
Before you answer that, humor me on one more thing. Everybody in this room wants this to work. That worries me a little, because rooms that want something to work have a way of talking themselves past the bad case. What happens if Mia's 13,000 is wrong? Not a little wrong, badly wrong. What if Summit Valve signs with Savage Industrial anyway, next month, before we've even got the cell installed?
Mia didn't flinch.
Then we're still north of 10,000 without them. Our other 4 accounts alone, plus the bid work we're not even chasing today because our lead time scares people off before they call, that's not nothing. And it's not Summit dependent. I built the 13,000 to survive losing any one account, including our biggest one. I didn't build it assuming everything goes right.
And if it's wrong on the cost side, if the cell needs more maintenance than the quote promises, or the loan rate moves against us before we lock it, every one of those pushes the break-even number up, not down. I built in a cushion on purpose. 10,000 is the honest number, not the optimistic one.
Walt didn't say anything for a long moment. He looked at his 2 legal pads, at the numbers he'd been keeping since Tuesday, at the debt-to-equity line he'd drawn a box around the day before.
I want to say something, and I want to say it while I still half disagree with it. My job in this room is to be the person who doesn't get swept up. I've watched good companies borrow their way into a hole because somebody had a good pitch and a bad spreadsheet. That is not what happened here. You separated what's sunk from what's relevant. You showed me the difference between a cost that scales against us forever and a cost that's fixed once and then gets cheaper per part after that. And you didn't ask me to trust a forecast. You asked me to trust orders that are already sitting on Mia's desk, unfilled right now. I can defend that loan to the bank. More importantly, I can defend it to myself.
Priya, Jordan, Marcus, Mia. I asked this team 6 weeks ago to come back with the truth, whatever it cost me to hear it. You did that. You didn't come in here asking me to feel good about spending $1.3 million. You came in here and showed me that not spending it was the actually expensive choice. I just hadn't been forced to put a number on it until this week. She looked around the table, at engineers and a controller who, 3 days ago, had walked into this room from 2 different directions entirely. Let's build it. Walt, get the paperwork moving with the bank. Priya, I want a project plan on my desk by Friday. Timeline, installation, who we retrain and onto what. Because nobody in this building loses their job over a machine that finally works right. Marcus, when that cell shows up, it's yours to keep breathing. And Mia, call Summit Valve. Tell them the truth. Tell them help is coming, and tell them when. Walt stood, and for the first time in 3 days, so did the corners of his mouth. He put his hand out across the table, and Priya shook it.
10,000 parts, I'll be counting.
13,000, I'll be selling.
Renee looked at the chart still up on the screen, the line that had been falling since the first meeting on Tuesday, and the break-even line Jordan had drawn underneath it, with daylight in between. Next time, we find out if you were right. To be continued.